In Mexico, probably the one I would say, if you haven't read it yet, like Water with Chocolate, a novel in monthly installments with recipes, romances, and home remedies. Laura Escobar is a screenwriter. So it has that cinematographic quality to the text. It's funny, it's sad, it's magical realism, again, in 19th century Mexico. The main character, Tita, is the youngest of 3 daughters born to Mama Elena, who is the owner of the De La Garza Ranch. The young girl, Tita, falls in love with Pedro, but the mother will not allow them to marry since family tradition dictates that the youngest daughter remain home to take care of her mother. So instead, the mother orchestrates the marriage of Pedro to the eldest daughter and forces Tita to prepare the wedding dinner. What ensues is a poignant, funny story of love, life, and food, which proves that all 3 are entwined and interdependent. And there are recipes, fabulous recipes in here. So this is a fun book too. And I think that was probably made into a movie too, because it had that whole cinematographic feel to it. Isabel Allende, we're going to the Caribbean now, Haiti. Haiti is hot in the topic. Past year, unfortunately. Isabel Allende wrote this very interesting book. Some people will say she comes across too professorial. That obviously in this book she's shoving all this history down their throats. Sometimes it reads more as a history lesson, and some people actually said she seems a little show-offy in her the choices in what she put in this book. There's a lot of history of Haiti. It takes place between the years 1770 and 1800, which is sort of a tumultuous time on the sugar plantations. Slaves were being brought in from Africa. The Spanish were ruling, the French were ruling. The Spanish were ruling, the French were ruling. This is the story of Zete, a mulatto girl, bought as a house slave for a French plantation. It opens in Santo Domingue a few years before the Haitian Revolution would tear it apart. This mulatto slave has an extraordinary life. It takes her from the blood-soaked island to dangerous and freewheeling New Orleans in the end of the 18th century. She goes from being a rural slave to an urban Creole in a different kind of cruelty and adventure. Even in New Orleans, Zayete can't quite free herself from the island and the people alive and dead that have followed her. Again, magical realism. There are ghosts abound in all of the Central American and South American fiction. The text, I think, is beautifully written. They wrap around rhythms and spirits. I think the text is sort of a conduit as a storyteller also. And again, there have been some critics who haven't liked this book, but her other work is also beautifully written, and I think she has a lot to offer. I think she's very poetic, even in translation, and this is a pretty good translation, I think. A fine job. So if anybody wants any of these, you can take them, but that had pictures, so I want you to see that one. Australia. Okay, we're going to leap over the ocean a bit. It's not what I expected it to be. Dirt Music, Tim Winton. This is a Booker Prize winner, or shortlisted. This was written in 2001, and in 2002, Tim Winton won for won the Miles Franklin Award. This is a very harsh, unyielding climate in Western Australia, and it dominates the actions and events of this thriller. It's another mystery. How the story goes: at 40, Georgie Jutlin is a mess, estranged from her family, her nursing career in ruins. She finds herself stranded in a small Western Australian fishing town, living with a fisherman she doesn't love, and 2 kids whose dead mother she can never replace. Luther Fox, the local poacher and outcast, is stifled with grief and regret. Dirt Music tells the story of their journey to each other and their recovery. So it's a mystery, and it's beautifully written. Okay, let's go to Asia. Let's go to Japan. American Fuji. This was read by my book group, the lovely tiaras, with a lot of discussion. We do talk about the books once in a while too. And there was a lot on this one. The story goes, Gabby Stanton, she's fired from her job as a university professor in provincial Japan. She has a gig selling fantasy funerals to the dying Japanese rich. Have any of you read this book yet? Okay. It's really bizarre. They have these funerals. The rich people come in and you can be sent off into space capsules, and they have these huge parties. There can be different themes, and they spend thousands and thousands of yen to have these strange funerals. It's so different from what we do in the U.S. It's just, the whole thing sort of, when you start reading the book, you sort of caught off center right away. You sort of shoved to the side. Her job puts her in the path of Alexander Thorne, a middle-aged American who has just arrived in Japan, determined to decipher the mystery surrounding the death of his son, an exchange student. The perspective of the novel shifts back and forth between these two characters as Gabby and Alexander stumble on the Yakuza ring. They unearth medical secrets and sprout romantic feelings for each other, as we would predict. The two gradually develop a Tracy Hepburn-style combative relationship. Still, the author's sympathies clearly lie with Gabby, a 30-something woman with health problems who relishes her automatic outsider status in Japan. She has serious digestive issues, like colitis. So she's constantly searching for bathrooms in Japan, and the bathrooms in Japan are nothing like the bathrooms in the United States. So there's this whole issue of her health, and we have to wonder, why would she put herself in that situation? Because it's very awkward. But she does like being the outsider. If everything she does is strange to her host culture, then her illness doesn't matter, she's decided. But the introduction of Alexander is a wise move, allowing the author to show us Japan through the perpetually startled eyes of a newcomer. The father shows up and he's shocked by everything, the funerals, the bathrooms, the cars, the way people treat each other. There are some really unlikable Japanese characters in this novel. And there was a lot of discussion about Japan and would we want to go to Japan after reading this novel? Half of us would never go to Japan after reading this novel. There was also a description of hiking up Mount Fuji, which resonated with one of my colleagues, but she said the book made it sound much easier than she found it. The day they did it, you have to get up like 4 o'clock in the morning. You're in the dark, it's all foggy, they take you, you march up, hike up the mountain, and Mount Fuji is usually fogged in so you don't see anything. So it's cold and wet and dark, and then you see nothing. And you've worked very, very hard. So that was kind of interesting, and I probably won't try to climb Mount Fuji either. In China, we have Snowflower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C. This is another book choice club. Another book club choice that we went through. This takes place in 19th century China, and it's about a little girl, Lily, who's 7, and she is paired with another little girl called Snowflower. It's supposed to be like an emotional match. They're supposed to go through their lives together. They send messages to each other on a silk fan. She's written a poem in a language called Nushu. It's a language created by Chinese women to communicate in secret, and that the most educated of them used to teach to their daughters. They take turns writing on this fan. From daughter days to sitting quietly days, the girls endure foot binding, allowing them to make arranged marriages. They learn how to take care of a home. They study this language, Nushu, in the women's chamber of their respective homes, while the men work outside. Lily, a farmer's daughter, marries up, and becomes Lady Lou. Snowflower, an opium addict's daughter, whose father cannot support his family anymore, marries down and lives a hard life as a wife of a country butcher. They both pray to have boys, which will give them higher status in their in-laws' household. Lily has 3 sons and a daughter, Snowflower 2 sons and a daughter, and a lot of miscarriages. They meet at set dates to visit the Temple of Gupo or to go back to their families for the Catching Cool Breezes Festival. Over the years, they share their pains through messages in Nushu and record important events of their lives on the fan. A misunderstanding causes women to stop writing to each other, but they reconcile as Snowflower's death approaches. The foot binding section is exceptionally and excruciatingly detailed. Contemporary readers have a better understanding of why mothers bound their daughters' feet, though. I mean, to us it sounds very barbaric, and when you read about it, it is barbaric, but you understand why. I think our book will also, we Googled pictures of feet and the shoes and what the whole thing was about. It is amazing. Dreams of Joy is also by Lisa C. Any travel book by Paul Thoreau is going to take you on a great journey. He writes beautifully. So any of the books there, he's got a number of them that take place in Asia and Africa, so you're not going to, don't miss Paul Thoreau if you're going anywhere. In North Korea, and again, my pronunciation probably isn't going to do justice. Musei Pyongyang, and it's Guy Delisle is the author. He's a French-Canadian graphic novelist. This is a memoir, and this was also suggested by David Small. It takes place in North Korea. This documents Delisle's experiences in North Korea, where he stayed for 2 months. He was acting as a liaison between a French animation producing company and the scientific educational Korean company. And he struggles with the difficulties of outsourcing and the bureaucracy of a totalitarian closed state in a graphic novel. So I think that sounds interesting. And David said